The silence from Kanye West in late 2025 was not a creative choice or a marketing stunt for his upcoming album, because the reality is that Ye was placed under a massive legal and financial lockdown that threatened to dismantle what remains of the Yeezy empire. While the public expected the usual cycle of erratic social media rants and surprise pop-up shows, the reality behind the scenes was a series of explosive court filings that paints a much darker picture than a simple album rollout. Today, we are answering the three questions that have kept the industry whispering since the summer of 2025. How did a former assistant's lawsuit escalate from a contract dispute to allegations of sex trafficking and physical assault? Why did Kanye suddenly claim a net worth of nearly $3 billion in early 2025, while records showed millions in unpaid taxes? And what is the real reason he was banned from entering Australia, just as his global comeback was supposed to begin? We have mapped the entire timeline, from the first Yeezy layoffs to the unsealed July 2025 amended complaint, using court documents and financial receipts to show you the hidden mechanism behind the silent era. This isn't just about a rapper losing his way, it is about a coordinated effort to keep the most damaging industry secrets from hitting the light of day. To understand why the Bully album has been delayed so many times, we have to look at the financial smoke and mirrors that started in January 2025. Per Parade on December 9, 2025, Kanye took to Instagram to post a screenshot from a firm called Eaton Venture Services, claiming his net worth had rebounded to $2.77 billion. This was a direct attempt to set the expectation that he had successfully moved on from the Adidas fallout and was once again the wealthiest man in hip-hop. However, the reality revealed in tax records tells a completely different story. According to the Express Tribune on July 16, 2024, and updated filings in late 2025, Yeezy Apparel was grappling with 4 outstanding tax liens totaling nearly $1 million, and property taxes on his Wyoming ranch remained unpaid for several quarters. This financial discrepancy is the first major red flag because it highlights a desperate PR motive. By publicly inflating his wealth, Kanye was attempting to maintain leverage in a series of private settlement talks with former employees and business partners. If the world thinks you have billions, they're more likely to accept a multi-million-dollar settlement offer as a rounding error rather than a sign of bankruptcy. But the receipts show that the cash flow was drying up. According to reports from the Los Angeles County Registrar in September 2025, Ye was forced to offload several high-value real estate assets at a loss just to cover the mounting legal fees associated with his various civil suits. The payout for this strategy was supposed to be a clean slate for 2026, but those plans hit a brick wall when his lead legal counsel, Brian Brumfield, stepped down due to non-payment and what he described as a total breakdown in communication. The money wasn't just missing, it was being frozen by the mounting pressure of a lawsuit that was about to turn from a civil disagreement into a criminal-level scandal. When a billionaire can't pay his lawyers, the silence that follows isn't a choice, it's a necessity. This brings us to the most shocking development of the entire year, which occurred right as the calendar turned to July 2025. Per globalnews.ca on July 11, 2025, former assistant Lauren Picciota filed a second amended complaint that changed the entire narrative of Kanye's legal battles. The common belief among fans was that Picciota was simply suing for a $3 million severance package that she felt she was owed after her termination, but the reality disclosed in the new filing included allegations of sexual assault, battery, and what the court documents labeled as sex trafficking. According to the filing, Picciota alleged that during a studio session co-hosted by Sean Diddy Combs, she was drugged with an unidentified substance that left her in a disoriented state. She claims that she woke up the next day with no memory of the night, but with physical evidence that an assault had occurred. This specific receipt is the most damaging piece of evidence in the entire Yeezy history because it links Kanye directly to the same types of allegations that brought down Diddy earlier in the year. The complaint further alleged that Ye subjected her to a pattern of terrorizing behavior, including forcing her to participate in sexual encounters and non-consensual physical contact. But the most chilling detail in the entire 2025 filing was the allegation of swatting. The complaint claims that after Picciota filed her original lawsuit, Kanye allegedly hired individuals to make false emergency calls to her home. This resulted in armed police search teams terrorizing her and her family under the guise of a violent crime in progress. According to legal experts interviewed by Variety in August 2025, this behavior, if proven, constitutes witness intimidation and could lead to criminal charges far beyond a civil payout. This is the real reason Kanye's social media went dark for months. His legal team likely issued a total silence order to prevent him from posting anything that could be interpreted as further retaliation against a witness. The payout for the public is finally understanding that the silence wasn't about the music, it was about the very real possibility of Kanye West facing a prison sentence. While the assault charges were unfolding in California, the global reality of Kanye's standing was confirmed by a quiet but devastating move from the Australian government. Per globalnews.ca on July 11, 2025, Australian officials officially barred West from entering the country. This happened following the release of a controversial track and his continued praise of historical dictators in private conversations that were leaked to the press. This mattered because Australia was supposed to be the launch pad for his 2026 world tour, which was projected to bring in over $200 million in revenue. The expectation was a triumphant return to the global stage, where he could bypass the US media and build a new empire in the East. But the reality is that Kanye has become a persona non grata in almost every major Western market. This has created a massive bottleneck for his revenue. According to a report from Billboard in October 2025, major stadium venues in Europe and Asia began quietly canceling their tentative bookings for the 2026 tour, citing safety concerns and the toxic nature of the Yeezy brand. Without the ability to tour, his only remaining path to liquidity is independent apparel sales and streaming royalties. However, even those are under threat. According to Rolling Stone in late 2025, multiple streaming platforms have been under intense pressure from advocacy groups to re-evaluate his catalog due to the severity of the sexual assault allegations. The PR trail shows that every time a new legal filing drops, a new snippet of a song appears on Instagram through fan accounts. This is a classic pattern interrupt. He is using the promise of the old Kanye to drown out the reality of the new legal nightmare. The payout here is the realization that no amount of genius can outrun a federal-level investigation into workplace conduct. The fourth major shock to the system came from within the walls of Yeezy itself. According to an investigative piece by Wired on November 14, 2025, dozens of former employees broke their NDAs to describe a workplace culture that was described as a cult of personality mixed with psychological warfare. These employees provided receipts in the form of internal emails and Slack messages showing that Kanye demanded they work 20-hour shifts and allegedly required some staff to sleep on the floor of the warehouse to ensure total commitment to the brand. The common belief was that working for Yeezy was the ultimate fashion dream, but the reality was a high-stress environment where your job could be terminated for wearing the wrong shade of socks. Per the Wired report, several employees are now part of a class action lawsuit claiming unpaid wages and emotional distress. This is significant because it shows that the legal pressure isn't just coming from one disgruntled assistant, it is coming from the very foundation of his business. The PR motive for the silence was to prevent these employees from gaining more traction in the media. If Kanye isn't talking, the story has nowhere to go. But as the 2025 court dates approach, these voices are becoming louder. The expert POV from employment lawyers suggests that the sheer volume of these claims makes a settlement almost impossible without a massive admission of guilt. Behind the scenes, the industry is also dealing with the A-lister shield. According to a legal analysis of the Picciota filings by Variety in August 2025, the complaint mentions several high-level executives and other unnamed celebrities who were present during the alleged incidents. The common belief is that Kanye acts alone, but the receipts show a network of enablers who provided the space and the resources for these events to happen. This is why we saw a sudden wave wave of neutral statements from former collaborators like Ty Dolla $ign and Playboi Carti. They focused strictly on the music while distancing themselves from the man. The reality is that the music industry is bracing for a fallout that could be even bigger than the Diddy case. If the names in the Pisiota filing are ever unsealed, it could implicate some of the biggest power players in Hollywood. Kanye's silence is the only thing protecting the rest of the industry from a total collapse of public trust. Per Hollywood Reporter on December 20th, 2025, major labels have started adding morality clauses to new contracts that are specifically designed to prevent this type of systemic liability.
They are learning from the Kanye disaster and building walls to make sure no other artist can become too big to fail while allegedly engaging in this type of behavior. As we look toward 2026, the final takeaway from the silent era is that Kanye West is currently a man trapped. We saw a mogul try to pivot from a sexual harassment lawsuit into a billion-dollar comeback, only to be met with allegations of drugging and swatting that no PR machine could spin away. The $400 million reality of his current liquid assets is a far cry from the $3 billion expectation he tried to sell the world on Instagram. The Bully album, which is now tentatively scheduled for January 30, 2026, is the ultimate Hail Mary. It is a desperate attempt to stay relevant and generate the cash needed to keep his legal team from quitting again. But as the court dates approach and the tax liens mount, the music might not be enough to drown out the sound of the receipts. We have seen this playbook before, where a celebrity uses silence to build mystery. But in this case, the silence was a cage. The reality we uncovered today shows that the money, the travel bans, and the disturbing allegations are all part of a larger story about the end of an era. The king of controversy has finally found a scandal that he cannot talk his way out of. The legal system is slow, but it is persistent. While fans wait for a new verse, the lawyers are waiting for a deposition. According to the court schedule for the Southern District of New York, several key hearings in the Pisiota case are set for the first quarter of 2026. This means the silence will eventually have to break. Whether it breaks in a recording studio or a courtroom will determine the legacy of Kanye West forever. He spent decades telling us that he was a god, but the 2025 filings show a man who was very much subject to the laws of the land. If you want to understand the secret playbook being used to protect the other major names mentioned in these unsealed filings, you need to head over to the Fresh Celebrity Tea playlist right now. It is the only place where we are connecting the dots between these lawsuits and the massive industry-wide purge happening behind closed doors. The Diddy case was just the beginning, and the Kanye silence is the loudest warning sign we have ever seen. Don't wait for the news to tell you what's happening. Look at the receipts yourself in our next video.